Hello, history students, and welcome to Early Government Vocabulary. I'm your host, Mr. Bowman. Let's get started. First vocabulary term for early government unit is confederation. And we have a variety of different pictures here. The three that we are focusing most heavily on would be the first government of the United States, the Iroquois Confederation, and look at that, the Confederate States of America. Might not make any sense to you right now, but it will in a couple slides. What is a confederation? Are there examples of this? Of course there is. Iroquois Confederation, Articles of Confederation. But what is a confederation? Confederation is an organization that has agreed to cooperate and work together for the benefit of everyone involved. And in our historical case, the Iroquois Confederation and the Articles of Confederation were exactly that. The Iroquois Confederation was an agreement amongst different Indian tribes to work together and cooperate to deal with the ever-growing and encroachment of American colonists or American citizens moving into Indian territories further and further west. Under the Articles of Confederation, which is, as we know, our first national government, it was an agreement amongst the 12 states to work together and cooperate for the benefit of all the states, hence Articles of Confederation. The Constitution will eventually replace the Articles of Confederation. The Constitution is our second national government. What is it? What is a Constitution? A Constitution is a document that outlines the framework for our government. So it's kind of like a blueprint or an outline of how our government works. It outlines what it can and cannot do, and it also outlines responsibilities of different parts of the government and also different levels of the government. National government, state government, local government. Constitution. The Bill of Rights. The Bill of Rights is actually part of the Constitution. It's the first 10 amendments of the United States Constitution, and the Bill of Rights is the part of the Constitution that outlines the rights of the citizens of that country, and in our case, the citizens of the United States. In this cartoon, what this is referencing is we in the United States have a Bill of Rights, but look at all of these countries that don't have a Bill of Rights that protect the rights of its citizens. Very interesting. Bill of Rights. Are we talking Bill Gates? No. Are we talking Benjamin Franklin? No. It'd be nice to have a lot of them. The Bill of Rights, the amendments to the Constitution, the first 10, very important. Balance of power. What are we talking about? Are we talking Star Trek? No. Mr. Allen would like us to believe that we're talking about Star Trek. Tom Clancy, best-selling author, balance of power? No. But what we're talking is balance of power between different levels of government and different people responsible in government. Balance of power in our studies is the power shared and divided between the different levels of government. National government and state government, and sometimes local government. What level of government is responsible for doing certain things? And all of these things have to be, quote unquote, balanced. Different levels of government have responsibilities, and it's important to have a balance of power where not one level of government has all the power and other levels of government do not. Balance of power. One of the branches in our national government under the Constitution is the judicial branch. This branch of government explains and interprets laws. Very important. That's what they do. They explain and they apply laws. They commonly refer to the judicial branch as the court system. The Supreme Court is the highest court in the land. It's also the highest court in the judicial branch, and their primary role is to decide if a law is constitutional. What that means in layman's terms is they decide if a law is legal or not, if it's fair or not. The executive branch is, again, another branch of the government. This one is symbolized by the presidential seal. The executive branch of government is responsible and has authority over the daily administration of the country. Legislative branch is the third branch of our government. And this branch of government is responsible for passing, repealing, and amending laws. This is the level of government that makes laws and policies for our country. And this is the branch of government that we hear most about in the news when it comes to balancing budget and dealing with things like health care, etc. Checks and balances, very important in our own daily life, having a checkbook, checks and balances. But in this case, in our studies, checks and balances refer to a system in which each level of government and each branch of government has the ability to check the powers of the other branches to prevent abuse of power. So what we mean that in regular terms is the executive branch has some checks and balances over the legislative and judicial, and the legislative has checks and balances over the executive and judicial, and the judicial has some checks and balances over the executive and legislative. I don't want that to be confusing, but they all have a way of checking each other's power. Very important. Federalism. Federalism is a word that we use in our studies to talk about the balance of political power and responsibilities between different levels of government. The balance of power between the national and state governments, for instance. This is a Venn diagram. And what you see over here in the darker blue are powers held by the national government. Over here in the teal, we have powers that are held by the state governments. And the power that seems to overlap is exactly that of federalism. These are the powers that are shared amongst the two levels of government. Federalism. Natural rights. We've talked about this before. John Locke. He proposed the idea of rights that cannot be taken away from someone, like life, liberty, happiness. We have it in the Constitution where it says life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. But this is a very, very important idea or concept that the Founding Fathers took and implemented into our national government. Republic, a government that receives its power from the citizens through a vote. Where does our government get its power from? It gets its power from we the people. We are the ones that allow the government to have its power. We choose our electors through voting, either directly or indirectly. This is really, truly a government for the people, by the people. Democracy. Again, we have used this before, democracy, the word. We may or may not use it in this unit, but people are represented in the government and have a say in the government. Our say is through voting. Okay, democracy. Foreign. This word can mean a variety of things, but in our studies, we refer to foreign as foreign policy. Foreign policy is anything that is foreign policy is the word that we use to describe any type of relationship that our government has outside of our borders. So when we're dealing with Mexico, when we're dealing with Syria or Iran or Afghanistan or any other country, we are talking foreign policy. Domestic. Domestic is another word that can mean a lot of different things, but in our studies, domestic or domestic policy means any item that our government is dealing with inside our own borders. So when we're talking about natural disasters, or we're talking about policies such as Medicare, Medicaid, or health care, or unemployment, schools, we're talking domestic policy. And that is the end of our early government vocabulary.